Hi, I'm Graham Blackburn, and this is Traditional Woodworking by Hand. And in this episode, you're going to get framed. I've got to the point where, in my relatively new shop, I need an extra storm window. So I'm going to take this opportunity of demonstrating and teaching you about overlows and sash planes. This wood that you see here, this is going to be the frame for a small rectangular window that needs an extra storm window. So as I've mentioned before, once you've sorted out the pieces of the work that you're going to do, I'm a big fan of the triangle method. So we're going to draw a triangle. And here's the top of it, which tells me that this is the face and the top piece. Here is the bottom of the triangle, which tells me that this is the bottom of the what will be the sash window. And this one here will tell me that it's, from my point of view, it's the left-hand side and the face, and this will tell me that it's the right-hand side. So we're going to use some hand planes to mold these so that we have a nice overlow on one side and a glazing rebate on the other. Now, what does that mean? What's an overlow? Well, an overlow is just one of the many curious names that are given to different shaped edges. And it's basically a round shape that has maybe a little listle and a little square bit at the top. Something you should know, which unfortunately router bit manufacturers don't always know, and this is another reason why very often you can do quicker and better work with hand tools than you can with electric tools, is that most moldings can be divided into two sorts. If they have any curved section and that curved section is based on a circle, then they belong to the Roman family of moldings. If, on the other hand, that curved section is part of an oval, then they belong to the Greek family of moldings. Now, the simplest way of making an overlow profile is to use an overlow plane. Here are a couple of pieces of wood. I like to keep samples of what each plane makes. And something that's interesting is that you can make that overlow profile on the flat surface of a piece of wood, which is what this was, or you can make it on the edge of a piece of wood. In this case, I'm going to show you how we make it on the edge of a piece of wood. So remembering about keeping the spring line vertical, I make sure the fence is tight to the wood, and I simply plane until built-in depth stops the plane from doing anything anymore. And here we have a really nice overlow edge. Here is another plane from a different maker, a different period. On the sample that I keep of what this plane makes, you can see the maker's name and where he worked and the dates that he worked and whether this is on the face or the edge. And it makes a very similar shape to the previous one, but they all vary. But both of these are overlow molding planes. And we could use either of these to make the overlow profile on the inside of our frame, but we also need to make a rebate on the other side where the glass will fit. So for that purpose, we could use the overlow planes and then, as we've shown before, use a rabbet plane to make a rabbet on the other side, but it's easier to use a specific plane known as a sash plane. This plane does both things. It makes the overlow here, and it makes the glazing rebate here. You can see how it fits in nicely like this. I need, for a substantial window, for the wood to be 5/4 thick. Having marked the pieces like I showed you before, my first job is to use this plane, the sash plane, on the inside of all the pieces that will comprise the piece of work. So I take the first piece, and remembering that part of the reason that I use the triangle is so that I'm always sure which is the face side, I always plane from the face side. So I put this in the vise, making sure that the face mark is to me. And the next thing that's interesting to note is that this not being exactly a molding plane, it doesn't have a spring line. It's designed to be held straight up. So this is, technically speaking, not a molding plane, but a special purpose plane. In this case, it's a special purpose plane for making glazed framing. So here we go. We put the plane on the wood, making sure we've got the face side close to me, and we start the plane. Now you can see that the overlow is beginning to be formed on what will be the inside of this piece of the sash, and that the rebate where the glass will fit is beginning to be formed on the inside. When the middle of the sole of the plane reaches the workpiece, the irons will stop cutting, and I will know that now I have a perfectly shaped piece of wood. This will be, as you can see here, the left-hand side of the frame. Here's the overlow, and on the back is where the glass will be. So my first job in making this sash window is to do this all the way around. I've already done it on what will be the bottom piece. I did it on the side piece, and after maybe I have a cup of tea, I'm going to do it on the other side piece and the top piece. At that stage, I will have 4 pieces of wood, all in the right order, all molded, and all that remains to be done now to finish this piece of window sash is to join these pieces together. That's going to be the subject of the next episode. I'm going to show you how to make the simple mortise and tenon joints there and miter the molding so that the whole thing fits together and looks like it's one piece. So don't forget, if you want to know when the next episode is coming up, click on the subscribe button, and I look forward to showing you how to finish our first piece of construction furniture.